Twilight Garage podcast is brought to you by The Red Onion, the Bay Area's finest hamburgers, located at 11900 San Pablo Avenue in El Chorrito. Tell them Twilight Garage sent you.
Twilighters! I want to personally welcome you to this series without end. We're going to be covering HELTER, SKELTER, the most famous true crime book of all times by Vincent Bugliosi and his wonderful ghostwriter, Kurt Gentry. There's so much to cover here. We're just going to keep it rocking. My great co-host, Casey Fields, and I. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Twilighters! We're dipping into the HELTER, SKELTER. Talk about some HELTER, SKELTER. Man, so many freakouts and trips and I don't know, impetuses for wacky songs have come from the culture of this crime. The Tate LaBianca murders, as they're collectively known. The iconography that has become Charles Manson and the Manson family. The films inspired by, the books inspired by, the fiction. Like, wow. Where do we start with this thing?
Man, I was reading a Disney book one day, and it was talking about, it was by cast members that worked at the park. And they said that in the late 70s, up above the store in Tomorrowland, when you come out of Space Mountain, the employees that worked in that store used to hate going upstairs to the stock room because on the wall, somebody wrote HELTER, SKELTER. And they had the janitorial crew come and clean off the wall, repaint it. And like 2 weeks later, it showed back up again. They thought their stock room was haunted.
Well, I heard stories. My dear friend Pascal's told me stories. He's a wonderful bootmaker. Hollywood Riff Raff on Instagram. Wonderful guy. He relayed stories of a close friend of his whose father at the time was a lasso deputy and was doing transport for family members and specifically Charles Manson, hippie, cult leader, bloodthirsty, murderous dog. They were instructed to refrain from having any type of eye contact. Literally felt that if he could make full eye contact, eye contact with you, you're done. And this is the LA County Sheriff's Department advising their officer. How do you get information from someone? What's the first thing you do? Look the motherfucker in the eyes. So how disconcerting would that be? Your captors won't look at you?
Yeah.
What a weird trip. And so I think about that sometimes, especially early in the day when Charlie would be in court. You know what I mean? And he would get really spicy. And I always wondered what kind of shit had played out in the hours before. Because when you're in jail, you're up early, man. You're not fucking laying around the rack chilling.
You're right. They woke him up, man, at 6 a.m. to transfer him
minimum
over to the courtroom jail. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are mistaken thinking he was housed in the same place. They would bring him around the back in those big Crown buses in the high caged area. You sometimes see in the photographs.
I think early on he was housed in the jail at the top of the Hall of Justice, but there was like a major earthquake would cause damage to it. They had to move him and the others over to the Twin Towers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So the whole thing, what a trip that would put you on. You are a dude hanging out with these broads and your friends and these doom buggies and shit gets weird. You're like, fuck, man, I gotta fucking take all these runaway kids and put them in the system. And I'm getting this pussy and people like me and I like them. And I've been in jail and this is exciting. And, no one's ever loved me. And these kids are just all love. And, my mom didn't love me and everyone said they love me. And now what does love mean? Do you love me this much? A couple of people got slapped, whatever. That's you figuring what is love and where are these people in love that you're experiencing? Poor guy, kicked around like a dog his whole fucking life. So then he's now experiencing, really honestly, sounds so trite to say, really experiencing love, truly and verily for the first time. But it's on such a scale. It's not like, Charlie, I love you. And then them going back and forth, him and Lois or whoever, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's he and a whole cadre of people.
Yep.
And he did rescue a few people. That is fucking true. You can act like some of the stuff that was said in Chaos isn't right, but that shit really happened. And I fucking witnesses, survivors, people with no compensation to stretch the truth in any way, shape, or form who've said he pulled upwards of a dozen people out of very dire and dangerous situations, very rapey, sex trafficking situations. And that doesn't get talked about because he's supposed to be this great sex trafficker.
I learned something about Lynn this week I'd never read before. Maybe I missed it somewhere else, but it was in these FBI documents where they were saying that, when her family moved from Redondo Beach to Torrance, even though it's not far away, she was like in high school and she wanted to finish out her senior year at Redondo Beach High School. And her parents weren't really fans of it. So she moved in with the family.
You mean her former high school, Westchester?
She went from Westchester to Redondo Beach High School. But then her parents, before her senior year, moved to Torrance, which is only like 5 minutes away. But she was going to transfer. She was going to transfer again.
The third move.
So she went and lived with a family friend, a friend at their house, and wasn't living with her family.
The gal, and she'd worked at the pet store with her.
Now that girl and her, after they graduated, got an apartment together
down in Venice.
And Lynn was I hope this is correct, by the way. No offense, Lynn, but Lynn was dating a guy that was in love with her, that wanted to marry Lynette. But then, she said, no, I'm not ready for marriage. I just graduated high school.
Right.
I'm not ready for marriage. Then this dude goes and marries her roommate.
That's
wild.
No, his light was on.
Yeah.
His light was on, bro. That's it.
So I'm thinking, light was on. This girl, just graduated high school. Her roommate just freaking married her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And so
what the fuck you do with that?
She has to move back home.
Right.
And then her dad's shitty to her at home.
Yeah. It was, from what I heard from Lynn, the problem with the dad was not that there wasn't love. She loved him. He loved her. Conditions. If you want to come back under my roof, Lynette, Romy, little Miss Lynn Alice, you're going to do that. You have to do this. Or you have to do that. There's all these conditions. Whereas in real life, she'd been a young adult and an independent individual for some time. So to revert back to almost a junior high existence, there's a curfew.
She hadn't lived with him since she was a junior in high school, the summer before her senior year.
Yes.
Well,
I can tell you as a person who experienced it myself, because I love my father beyond words. And actually Lynn helped me cope with a lot of my feelings with my dad and point them out. What she went through with her dad, it's just such a really consuming, taxing experience that your mentor, your hero, the person you aspire to be on certain levels morally and financially and within the community, and you're upholding a name, you're that Frommy girl, wow. That when your mantle is broken, that is a tragic thing. For a man, it was tragic. For a young woman, as headstrong, as loyal as she is, because we look at how she felt about Charles, but think about her loyalty to her father and how much that had simmered her whole life. Literally, the person who created her.
So in these documents, this is being communicated from friends of Lynn, people that were close to her. So it's not actually coming from her, but
Right.
they talk about how she had a horrible relationship with her mom too. That while her dad was at work, her mom and her were having these drag out fights where they were just, her mom described her to her dad as Lynn acts like a different person when you're not around. But then when the dad came out, she was the good girl. Like she was the, there was even, they said something in there about either her mom, it's tough because it's redacted, right? So either
These FBI
either she
documents.
threw a knife at her mom and it stuck in the wall, or her mom threw a knife at her. But I mean, it got pretty serious.
We might need to have that clarified. Just like
Yeah.
the whole thing, I didn't finish the story last week properly about Bugliosi, a week before last, meeting the girls after the crawl. Because the actual line that was said, and I just didn't know if I could say it on here. So I kind of ruined the story. Sorry. Women had done the crawl. They're all licking themselves, wounded, terrible, stinky, as I had said, hurting, breaking dawn. They're at the Hall of Justice, days on their little hands and knees. Bugliosi, fresh as a rose, pops up. Hey, girls, what are you doing? Lynn says, trying to wake some people up. He looks at her and says, well, that'll never work. You gotta put a bomb underneath them to do that. And then went off, good morning, see you later, have a good morning, to prosecute their hero. But you think about how many statements and how many levels of the book are in that word. You'll have to put a bomb underneath them to do that. Helter Skelter, Vince Bugliosi, Kurt Gentry, if it was anything, it was a bombshell that it still remains to this day. Now, what do you think about the errors? Is it hard for you to read it now that you know more? You just,
I still enjoy it. It's so well written.
It really is.
Yeah.
Kurt Gentry, just as hurtful it is to people that I personally know and like, it's still, man, what a piece of work.
I recommend Helter Skelter is the foundation, the first book that anybody reads on the case.
Because that's just kind of how it has been the de facto thing. It just seems to be the way to do it.
He went broad with it, right? It's a large. He covers a lot of area. Now I think
time to work up to the preamble.
Now that it is told through his lens, his bias, right? And that's why I think it's important to read books like Reflections, right? And also Desert Shadows.
Absolutely.
These other
books,
books,
our main favorite books.
Yep.
I feel the personal element involved in reflection is great. I feel that because it is so intimate and personal, it sometimes gets referred to as almost like a diary or a girl's journal.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's very accurate. I understand the familiarity that comes with reading it, and it might feel that way. But what's being experienced in the book, it's available on Peace and Hall Press, Reflection by Lynette Rami, is her voice. It's how she speaks. So if you're going to read reflection, do yourself a favor. Watch, for example, the Oxygen documentaries and these different ones where she's speaking at different times throughout her life. She doesn't speak as quickly anymore. Her thoughts are very measured. Her speech is very literary.
When you read it, do you hear her voice in your head? It's like,
Absolutely. That's why I've never pursued anyone the way I pursued Lynette in my life. I've had wonderful love affairs. I've just accomplished goals that are humble brags, even mentioning them. It's just egotistical to even talk about my life. But to get to the place where I actually was able to physically meet Lynn and have discourse with her. If you look, you could just turn anywhere in the book. I very much tried to absorb the information she gifted us with in her own voice, so that when my ultimate goal, which I knew was going to come true because it had to, I was going to die trying.
and that was my point of bringing her up, is you would think that these FBI documents would be very anti-Lynn, but through reading them, I'm actually gaining an even more of a respect for her, a sensitivity to her lived experience.
And as you'll read in Jess Braven's book, and if you watch the C-SPAN documentary, they had a reunion of the players in her 75 trial there in Sacramento. Oh my goodness, that whole situation. There were so many legal precedences that so many exciting moments. But one of the main things that comes across is how much everyone who comes in contact with Lynn loves her. It's noted in almost every document by the government or law enforcement.
Yep.
Her way with male personalities, her understanding of interacting with men and communicating with men is disarming, endearing, and ultimately she will win you over. And that's what they say. Spiritually, they never had a problem with her. They actually really cared a lot for her, but legally, they're trying to put her to death. They had to take it to the wall.
She's very traditional, actually.
Absolutely.
She doesn't fall into this feminist that a lot of these women
In no way
have been corrupted by these different waves of feminism, right? She's very, I don't know, like she allowed.
She's not sexually promiscuous. She never really was. That was the whole thing. The really hurtful thing. Okay. And the one that I just need to be taken as the authority for once. Okay. Like, I'm not claiming to hold any water for Lynn beyond repeating a very, very emphatic statement. She, Lynette Alice Fromme, in absolutely no way, shape, or form had any type of sexual relationship, sexual contact, or sexual feelings towards or involving George Spahn of Spahn's Movie Ranch. That is not an implied denial. That's not in any way anything except a complete, direct denial from Lynn Fromme herself. That's one thing I will quote. Did not happen. Get off of that shit. Also, in prison, no sex, okay? Outside of Charles Manson, not promiscuous, okay? So she had a very exclusive relationship with her lover, Charles Manson. She wasn't out here partying, throwing it around the way they talk about. These women, a lot of them, very traditional, very sisterly. It's like us going on a fishing trip. Yeah, dude, we may be alone out here in the woods. Doesn't mean I'm going to suck your dick. Like, what changed? Oh, we're out the woods, so all bets are up. Like, so to imply that these women were just wantonly lusting after each other and calling lesbian sex, like, no, that is the person who says that having a fantasy,
reflecting it on them.
right? And that's the whole thing. You're telling on yourself, Bubba.
Bill Nelson was the king of that.
Oh my word! And those, dude, it made me sick. The whole thing, he would like just perv on Ansem and took those pictures of her bush and stuff, and it was just really disgusting. And it just really set a terrible precedence. And I was super mortified because here I am, like, what isn't stalkerish? Have your clothes.
Yeah.
I've been poring over your words. I yellow highlighted like the Bible. So many different highlights. I use different colors. But no. It's okay. It's okay. I won't let you in, right? Because I had to come in contact with her. Firstly, provenance of the From Me collection. Secondly, to see what I could do for her because she's become a big part of my life just through this.
And that's the part that I really respect.
Well, man, if you touch me and you change my life and I can't be of service to you and I can't love you and bring that to you, why am I alive? What is the purpose? Why did God put the star for me to follow if not to bring love? And you know, you're the fourth wise man. I don't need to be noted. I need to present my gift, and I will humbly be at your service and fade into the fucking background. That's love and that's friendship.
Yeah,
And people
after Charles Manson, she's the most infamous or famous person from this case.
absolutely,
She's
but
far more well known than Tex Watson.
and she has committed no murder. She's there's actually no violence.
So there was the Ford thing, but she paid her debt to society.
Well, there was no violence involved.
Yeah, what 30 something years?
36, I believe it was. Near 37. I really think her commitment to Charles and her feelings towards the women, she talks about a weight she feels to this day for Patricia, because Patricia was a very sincere, loving woman, a very giving, caring, homemaker type, kind-hearted den mother.
Mm-hmm.
Person within the Spawn Ranch lifestyle. And to hear stories about her, she was quite wonderful. And so for her to be the longest serving female inmate,
Man,
yeah, horrible crimes. Sure, victim's family, all of it. I mean, right. But again, when you've lived out a death sentence and your life in prison is many times multiplied over your natural life before prison, that is a very strange conundrum. And morally, I don't know what to say about things like that because I'm generally pretty much a law and order conservative person when it comes to crime, especially violent crime, any type of sexual crime, anything involving anyone or anything weaker than you, rape, child abduction, animal cruelty. I don't care. I want entertainment to be meat grinders with these type of predators being run through them. Like, I have no mercy.
mm-hmm.
But then due to our justice system being what it is, now we have these conversations. Like, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd ask Lynn,
Is it about punishment or is it about reforming somebody?
and is it about a political situation? Because I think part of Lynn's continued isolation and why at times we have to speak her words that are communicated to us as commentators, stoner myself, different people who've met and know her. Well, still hasn't met her, but thing being, it's a football game because if for any reason Lynn gets a wild hair, say Tom O'Neill's right. They've got a frequency in her head with the CIA.
Jeez.
We're breaking balls, Tom. You got to come on here, dude. We're straight breaking balls. Anyway, so let's just say she's having a bad fucking day. And she sees some mayoral candidate in the area. She's like, boo, boo. And that's all she does is flip her off and say, boo. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that would really not bode well for politicians locally. And it would, you know what I mean? It'd be a fucking shitstorm.
Yeah, I don't understand how you can spend that much time in jail and yet you're not allowed on the internet. Banned from the internet for the rest of your life or whatever. It's like, that's ridiculous.
And I have examples of me being present with law enforcement and Lynn where there's so many contradictions. I don't understand how anyone was keeping a straight face. So what law enforcement did was ask us about the plants we were messing with in her garden and ask Lynn about roses. She was having problems with the roses. This one big, large law enforcement officer was talking about issues she was having with the roses. Man, Lynette Fromey had some rather insightful, topical, good, solid advice for her roses. She used to tend to various plants when she was in prison. And really has kind of a well-rounded trip. Again, what do you do after you outlive your... I can't even finish that phrase because really what the phrase is in the end is, what do you do as an outlaw when you ain't wanted anymore?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of outlaw ain't wanted no more?
Yeah.
So... what do they do? They don't even...
I don't know what they expect them to do.
No. It's incredible. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Leslie comes up with.
Speaking of which, March 19th, 1978, the day that Leslie was convicted.
Oh, yeah, because she kept coming back and getting...
She had her second trial.
Oh, my goodness. And she's out now. And I'm guessing... she's under some care and supervision of her dear friend, John Waters. Very, very interesting situation there. I hope to hear more about it. But, you know, Bugliosi's dead now. We've got...
Gentry's dead too.
And so we don't have a lot to go on in terms of... I'm not going to say devil's advocate, but behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephen K has sure turned on them both.
Yeah.
What's up? Is he ever going to come out with a book? Is he ever going to do anything beyond just showing up looking like Skeletor?
Man, I don't think so. I know that he is kind of jealous of Vince for how much money he's made. He's made comments into the media
Absolutely,
about how
time
many
and time again.
books Vince has sold.
Good
And
Lord.
and Vince left, whether he was forced out of the DA's office. Some people believe that he might have been disbarred, but he went into a private practice after that, and then eventually just became more of a commentator on like Fox
a
News.
legal commentator.
Yeah, involved in like the O.J. Simpson case, giving commentary. But I think that based upon the success mostly of this book, Helter Skelter, that it opened up an avenue of possibilities and opportunities for Vince that Stephen K has never got.
Oh, did he be so pissed?
Yeah.
You think about it. Incredible. And then just what a piece of work Vince was. So for Stephen K to know that and be like, yes, dude, the milkman was stopping this woman. He punched his pregnant Oh my God.
This is also an advantage that prosecutors have over defense attorneys. Prosecutors are free to talk about their case.
Right.
Defense attorneys, I would love to hear from Paul Fitzgerald, but Paul had attorney-client privilege. You always have to be careful
Well, now,
in anything you say. You
well,
know?
now that Linda Kasabian is dead, I wonder if he'll, because he hasn't died.
I can't remember.
Because I thought he
Paul
actually
may have.
did.
I
I
can't
thought he did
remember.
like about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But God dang, the one he did do up there, he was in a building that looked like the Embarcadero here in San Francisco.
Mhm.
It was quite an interview. I'd love to see the rough footage and the stuff that didn't make it, because it seemed like he was on a hot streak. And the whole thing with Day Shin
Yeah.
and the Susan Atkins book that came out before the
Mhm.
trial.
The killing of Sharon Tate.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
By Lawrence Schiller.
Goodness. How could that? Just
Wild.
what an unconscionable act.
And I'm reading a book. I just recommended it to Nicholas Schreck. It's called The DA by a guy named Lawrence Taylor, not LT, the football
No,
player.
but there's another Lawrence
Yeah.
Taylor.
Lawrence Taylor was a deputy district attorney in the same office in Los Angeles as Bugliosi.
Okay, so that's
So here he gives his account of like the water cooler talk amongst the other deputy DAs.
that's what we need.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's out there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so
Good.
I've taken some portions of that he's talked about and I've added it into my book.
Oh,
He talks about how the major reason that Irving Kinerick was removed by Evel Younger as the lead prosecutor was because Evel Younger was taking a higher position.
no, Kinerick was the defense attorney.
I'm
for
sorry,
Manson.
I'm thinking of yeah.
It's okay, it happens.
No. I'm forgetting offhand right now, but
No,
Evel Younger
yeah.
was the DA of Los Angeles.
It was the dude with
He was becoming
Presley.
attorney general, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he brought in this person whose name I can't
It was
remember.
very
at the
law and
moment.
order.
Yeah, but he removed him from the case because he made some
Oh,
comments.
the original prosecutor.
Yeah,
yeah.
He made comments to the media
Right.
involving.
Because Bugliosi was the co-prosecutor,
Yep.
and then he pulled him, real famously early on. Because
what?
well, the water cooler talk I heard on that was fucking Judge Elder was fucking pissed
Yeah.
because he warned them. It was the fourth warning, bro.
Mm-hmm.
He told him, I'm going to gag you. And he did. It was an ABC reporter. He ran his mouth in the halls of the courtroom. And he's like, I'm going to fucking gag you.
I remember now is
And then he did.
Aaron Stovitz.
There it is.
Aaron Stovitz. And what's funny is Evo Younger, which was Aaron Stovitz's boss,
Right.
knew that Aaron Stovitz was trying to go for his old DA position that was being vacated. And he thought that Lawrence Taylor, this other deputy district attorney, said Evo Younger believed that Vincent Bugliosi wasn't as ambitious as Stovitz.
Wow.
So therefore he put him as the lead on the case after that. But in retrospect, Vincent Bugliosi was more ambitious for the district attorney position than even Stovitz was. There's no bigger a media whore than Vincent Bugliosi.
He really invented that. You know, in the legal profession, F. Lee Bailey, nobody pulled any shit this big.
Yeah.
There'd been impresarios, legal, grandstanding, nothing to the scale. And again, the HELTER narrative, the most incredible, wild, depraved sucks. Turned the Little Paul prison power trip, where Charles Manson had a what they called second in charge, when really it was just a younger guy who hung around, pretty hip kid, whatever, not of much use.
Yeah.
But the kid hung around. Paul had a big mouth later, made himself out to be a big man on the ranch.
And also Vince Bugliosi helped him promote his book.
Absolutely, because they were in collusion and he became a big witness for the prosecution, making himself internationally famous in the process. But the whole point was there wasn't a bunch of homosexuality. There wasn't any gay stuff happening around the ranch because gays were of no use around that lifestyle. So what was going on was Paul was getting a little uppity, and Paul just needed to come over here to show a new girl
how it's done.
How it's done, Paul. So Charles Manson slid his beautiful penis into Paul Watson's mouth, gave it to him, fucking throated the boy, and straight skated down old boy's throat. Prison cells, skated in the throat. Just got it down his throat. You know what I'm saying?
And we never learned it. Charlie Climax.
Just, you know, he just fired that thing, busted a lung, dude. Guy was like coughing up. He was coughing up Bisquick for days after that, you know, glazed donuts and whatnot. So my thought was that one act kept getting repeated because that's what fed their narrative. No depravity was beneath Manson.
Mind wash zombies.
Ooh,
right?
Bloodthirsty cult murders, ritualistic slaughterhouse. And then that whole thing, talk about the entertainment industry. Rob Zombie, right? Turning it all into like circus clown, bad acid trip.
Yep.
That is actually so intelligent. It's really funny. Man, I'm sorry, you guys.
You're right.
I miss things culturally. I'm sorry. Bear with me here. Sorry.
House of a Thousand Corpses.
Right. But
was supposed to represent like Spawn Ranch.
Right. I didn't know horror movies were funny. I didn't know it was campy humor.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw victimizing and blood splatters, and I was like, you're a bunch of, how can these be churned out? How can there be a Halloween? Much less a Halloween 3? Like, I didn't understand it. And then somehow someone was watching one of the zombie movies and I walked in on it. It was just visually interesting. It was goddamn hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're right. It's a Spawn Ranch rundown.
Sherry Moon Zombie, Rob Zombie's wife, plays this character in it, right?
Which is basically Squeaky.
Where they totally recreated the Robert Hendrickson film. They put her in a barn, gave her a bunch of talking points where they may try to make her sound like what the girl said in the Hendrickson film. And I shared that in Abraxas Circle, Nicholas Schreck's group, and some people were like blown away. They had never seen that part, or they never recognized that part of the movie before.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I told Lynn about it, and she was like, what? And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's pretty famous, pretty cool. And that's why, I mean, culturally, me owning those vests, I mean, wow, Rob Zombie, way to just fold that into pop culture for me and just elevate the value incredibly in terms of cultural import. Because it just shows, as an astute viewer, you know, Zombie saw what an incredible piece of theater Hendrickson and his partner had created. Merrick there, and his
obviously made an impact on him.
Well, and his wife is there shooting the still photos. So what he understood was the import of those actions, and then to work it into an American horror story. Like, that was very insightful. There's a lot of neat cultural things happening. That's like the magic of film you'd spoken of earlier. Statements like Tarantino with the glass. And when I was watching that, I visited Lynn, and she basically said how much she didn't care for the film.
Sure.
And I'd seen it once. I was like super stoned, and my wife was out of town. I wasn't really paying attention. And I said, hey, man, these things are about entertainment. Like, look at Kill Bill, right?
Yep.
Come on, man. You can't take that. It's an homage to a certain time in a vein of film.
Yeah, film, not actually the martial arts culture.
the film
Yeah.
culture that surrounded
Mhm.
the idea of martial
Yeah.
arts culture. Like it's so far removed, but then it takes on a life of its
Mhm.
own. And it's like
Yeah.
what it did with it. It's a form of fan fiction.
Yeah.
So he's worshiping Lynette Fromme. He's tripping on Steve Grogan. There's all these things happening.
And putting it together into a grindhouse type of cinematic experience.
Right. So that's what I was trying to express to her.
Now, the part that actually made me crack up in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was one of the very last scenes. Brad Pitt has the altercation, right, with the Manson family members, where he ends up, spoiler alert, taking out basically all of them, right? And
Susan catching it with a flamethrower
yeah,
into the pool? Like how gross. Dude, you light somebody up. You know, in a movie, you want them to just disappear. It's like RFK, right?
Mhm.
2 days later, the guy dies. He gets all heroically shot. And he's just like, they don't talk about the 2 days afterwards. Like,
Mhm.
you know, you guys, it's kind of like Jesus. You're hanging there. How does he die?
Yeah,
Asphyxiation because of the
Yeah.
organs. So, I mean, you
Mhm.
gotta kind of think about your talking points. You're like,
yeah,
you know, if I had it to say over, you know, maybe I told my people to invest in claw hammers. Like, get these fucking things out of here.
Mhm.
You think about that level of suffering, and it's not dramatic. It's not dramatic and over. And then in that movie, it was so disgusting. So they come in and he's
Totally.
fighting them,
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Slamming their heads in the wall, like,
splattering.
stomping out Tex Watson on the ground,
right.
stomped him like
It was like a curb stomp.
Yeah.
Like, it was like American History X.
Susan's blinded, running around, screaming, falls in the pool.
Boom.
Yeah, like
Getting all lit
but
up.
the part that cracked me up,
Jesus.
and we're gonna go back to Helter Skelter because we're gonna go back there because Bugliosi further propagated this alleged line that Tex Watson said, "I'm the devil here to do the devil's business." Right now, I like what they did in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because Brad Pitt's character completely just shits all over that. He's being wheeled out in the ambulance, and they ask him, "Man, what happened?" And he said, "Man, the guy stomped in the door, came in, and he said some shit like, 'I'm the devil here to do some devil shit.'" Just totally just ripping that line.
Well, and again, it makes you wonder how much the input of Jacobson and these other people that Tarantino invested in paid off. And it's a form of rich storytelling. But that's what I was trying to explain. And, you know, well, they didn't get it right. They didn't get it right. Well, guess what? Tom O'Neill wrote this fucking blockbuster goddamn book.
Mhm.
Wait a minute, bro. You make movies. Your name is Netflix, right? You're a network about movies.
Yep.
You don't take this fucking story, which is, I mean, hey, sometimes people want to say it's fiction, whatever. Say it is, like Helter Skelter.
Mhm.
You have this incredible screenplay and
Mhm.
that you don't even follow the script, which is incredible.
And you guys bought the license to this film, right? And yet it should have been like Wormwood, one of Errol Morris's other projects.
Right.
It should have been an 8 to 12 episode series. Man.
Absolutely.
It would have been phenomenal.
I would reach over, but I know you guys have it. So attractively packaged. It was just a timely release.
Yeah, 50-year anniversary.
Well, that, and you know, he really was on it in terms of timing everyone out and letting them die so they couldn't fucking argue against him. Like everything was perfect for Tom. You know what I'm saying? He was a pissy gay LA columnist, real bitchy, like shut add to belly. But wow, to pull this fucking thing off, to wrangle this big project, Rogan all these people, conservative people, conspiracy theorists. He has really garnered a great audience. I, at Netflix, would have ridden that fucking horse straight to fucking hell for, dude, 12 episodes minimum, dude.
NBC did with the show Aquarius. They did like 2 seasons or 3 seasons.
Tom, we love you in the group. What an incredible book. Incredibly entertaining, incredibly engaging. Make of it what you will. We're not going to fight anybody here who wants to say weird shit about Tom O'Neill. Incredible piece. They fucked Tom O'Neill in the ass. He's a gay man, but when you pin someone down and fuck them with their own pride, 20 years of blood, sweat, he's looked like a quack and an asshole for decades. Then he's a fucking hero. He finally works his way out of debt, makes his money, everything's great. He should be getting a crown, right? Think of it what you want. Like,
well, this should fund everything that his work his next project.
What in the hell did they? Why would you do that to the guy? I mean, he pissed everyone in Hollywood off, obviously, but man, Hollywood, that is fucked, bro. Like, you couldn't even just make the money off the guy and then shit on him or give him a scandal. They should have made the money, given him a scandal, murdered him quietly, like they do, so that it would fuel the fucking speculation more, right? But they didn't even do that. They took his story and made it helter skelter, which is everything. Oh.
We're going to come back to it the next episode. We got so much more to say on Helter Skelter. We're just getting started.
Poor Tom.
Please forgive and give us grace for our rants. We like to also bring up all these other things.
It's all related, though.
Yeah.
It's adjacent. It's adjacent.
We hope that you Twilighters are enjoying this as much as we are.
If not, complain, because fuck, there's shit happening in these comments. Maybe we'll just start fucking sucking eggs so people will complain. 6 likes. You're making me a slut for likes. I didn't know I was gonna look I'll be doing something during the day and I'm like looking at I'll be like that. I make that noise.
He's trying to become an influencer here. Come on, people.
Or a defluencer or something. Let me be something. I wasn't a yuppie in the 80s. Didn't have the bread for it. They called me a nopey back then. I was a little broke. Wasn't a yuppie. I was just a dang nopey. But man, it's a new day. Come on, help me out. Throw me a bone. Tom got a bone. They tried to take it away from him, but Tom, we're going to give you a fair shake. Come on here. We'll talk it to death. Love you, Twilighters. Anything in the comments, please.